Para sa mga kwento ng pagbangon at pagiging kampeon ng mga atleta, ako si Jed Eva, ang current chairperson ng Nowhere to Go But Up Foundation.
At para naman talakayin ng mga hamon at pagbabago sa industriya, ako naman si PG Galang, miyembro ng Nowhere to Go But Up Board of Trustees, and we are your hosts.
Mga ka-sports, muli ninyo kaming samahan pag-usapan ang mundo ng pampalakasan. Whether it's about historic events in sports, the changes and the challenges in the industry, or just to highlight outstanding athletes, this is the show for you.
Yes, and this is where we talk about our love for the game. Your one-stop shop for everything sports, athletes, and the leagues. We will get into the works and ways. We will dive deeper into different stories for the fans, by the fans. This is TVUP, and we bring you
Inside the Games.
Now, ito maganda tong ating topic today.
It's actually very timely.
Very timely. This is about sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression. Soji.
Soji.
If everyone has ever heard of it, Soji. It's an important and necessary conversation, lalo na ngayon sa sports. Our goal is to create a space where every athlete feels safe, seen, and supported. Because when people feel accepted, they are empowered to dream bigger, perform stronger, and reach their highest potential.
You know, I couldn't agree more, PG, no? We want our athletes to step on the court with confidence. We want them to be free to be themselves, diba? Without fear or hesitation. Because really, discrimination has no place in sports. That's why it's so disheartening to see hate and bashing. It doesn't just hurt individuals.
Walang
it weakens
lugar.
the entire sports community.
Diba? Ang sports, palakasan tayo, pero there's no room for disrespect.
Respeto, diba?
Yeah, there's no room for disrespect in sports. So, when we talk about safe spaces, kasama dapat doon ang palakasan. It's not just a concept, it's a lived experience, diba? Just like what happened to recent lang, kaya nagkaroon awareness in UAAP, yung kay Trisha Tubo ng UAAP, women's volleyball team, whose story sparked important conversations about acceptance, identity, and resilience in the world of sport. Let's take a moment to watch this. In the world of UAAP volleyball, Trisha Tubo stood out, not just because of her powerful spikes, but because of her courage. A proud Adamson Lady Falcon, Trisha entered the collegiate scene ready to give her all on the court. But as she rose in performance, so did the noise. Instead of celebrating her talent, some tried to tear her down. Online bashers began to pick her apart, not for her game, but for her looks, for not fitting their idea of what a female athlete should look or sound like. They questioned her femininity simply because she was strong, powerful, and didn't match their standards of beauty. Comments compared her to male athletes, as if that discredited her skill. But it raises a bigger question. Why should athleticism be boxed in by gender norms? Is there really a right way for a woman to move, jump, or succeed in sports? Trisha didn't waver. She is simply being herself, firm, fearless, and unapologetic. She reminded everyone that an athlete's worth isn't measured by appearances, but by heart, discipline, and drive. Through it all, her Adamson family stood by her side. Her coaches defended her, her teammates rallied behind her, and the university made it clear. Trisha belongs, and she deserves every bit of respect. She became more than an athlete. She became a beacon for others like her. In a world where judgment can be loud, Trisha's strength was louder. Every time she stepped on that court, she played not just for herself, but for everyone who has ever been made to feel like they didn't belong. Because Trisha Tubo does belong. She is now in the professional league, and game after game, she continues to deliver stellar performances. She's not just playing, she's thriving, and she's not going anywhere.
Here at TVUP, we stand firmly against discrimination. We believe that sports should be a safe, inclusive space for everyone.
So joining us in this ongoing fight, actually we fight for equality, is someone who has long championed inclusive policies. She's an athlete, a passionate advocate, and the current chairperson of Pantay, a youth-led socio-political community pushing for gender transformative legislation. welcome to the show, Thighs Estrada. Estrada, tama ba ang pronunciation?
Thighs.
Thighs. Now, yung kanina yung sa introduction, S-O-G-I-E, Soji. Now, can you explain, since nag-advocate ka naman to everyone who's watching, can you explain what is Soji and what does it mean in the world of sports?
Yeah, specifically for sports, no?
Oo
Ano
nga.
yun?
Perfect. Actually, so Soji is something every human has. It just speaks to who you are based on your attractions, your gender identity, and how you express yourself gender-wise. So those are three different things, but they exist in all human beings. No? So when we say it's a Soji issue, it's an issue for everyone, no? Not just
Okay, sige.
LGBTQIA+.
Magandang ano yan,
Diba?
clarification.
Tama, because we all, it's associated, yes, with LGBTQIA+ experiences because yun yung dinidescribe mostly nung Soji, no? But when we
It's
understand,
not
lahat
exclusive
tayo,
to,
it's not
to, that,
exclusive,
to that
no?
one.
Lahat tayo meron nito.
Sa bagay.
In the realm of sports,
Yeah.
no, it talks a lot about inclusion. Kasi when we acknowledge the diversity of Soji, doon natin nakikita na, kailangan nating mas mag-include ng diverse gender identities, acknowledge that there are many other gender identities, expressions, and sexual orientations in that space. And it makes for a more inclusive, sports environment.
Thank you for that experience. Kasi, okay, kami ni Jed, wag mo lang ang edad namin, ha? Wag na lang tayo mag-
We come from a different generation.
We come from a different generation.
It was
wherein
before,
things were parang more cut and paste, this side and that side.
Yeah.
So parang, I think now the younger generation are having an easier time in
Yes.
trying to understand yung mga tulad natin.
Yeah, actually, this show is for more people from our generation, those who really are still trying
yung
to
parang,
wrap their
ano
heads
to,
around
diba?
this
Ano ba
concept.
to? Kasi,
Happy to educate. no?
Oo, yes. So, kasi this is parang na paano nga ba to maiintindihan? So, in your opinion, di ba?
Yeah, that's the purpose of this show really is. We really want to expand the different aspects of
Oo, eh.
sports. And no doubt, it's really becoming one of the bigger issues now facing sports. Din, no?
Good.
So, precise, exactly. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges faced by the LGBTQ community, especially the athletes in sports? So what are the biggest challenges facing them?
Well, the biggest challenges in terms of SOGI, which is sexual orientation, gender identity, and expression, for in the sporting world and in athletes themselves, is the lack of respect, no, of the kind of diversity that we have. We are humans, no, and humans intrinsically have rights. It's something you can't just take away, but you have to respect, no. And hindi siya pizza na pag binigyan ka ng karapatan, may nakukuha galing sa iba. We all deserve and need these rights, no, intrinsic rights, so that we live in a harmonious world na may respeto, pag-ibig, kindness. And it's not hindi siya na hindi relevant sa sports. Because in sports, palakasan, syempre, it's a very competitive environment. But there must always be space for identities that are respected. And yun yung pinaka-challenge talaga, ay yung the lack of acknowledgement that this exists. For example, there's a male and female gender identity.
Yan, sa mga pinag-aawayan, kasi ayoko naman sabihin pinag-aawayan, not masyadong contentious yun. Yung hindi malinaw, di ba? Yung hindi malinaw kasi sa mga taon, bakit, okay, like yung kanina, yung kay Trisha Tubo.
Yes, yun na lang.
Sige, let's look at Trisha Tubo's case. She doesn't look like
Typical.
the typical volleyball player. I don't even want to say girl. She doesn't
Typical
look like a
female.
typical volleyball player that we're used to seeing, di ba? And she was strong.
Yeah.
She's very strong. So nagkaroon tuloy ng doubt as to her gender, which is, I could understand, that's a very private thing.
Yes,
Di ba?
absolutely.
Parang kabastusan naman kasi kung tatanungin mo sa taong yun.
Absolutely.
And even in a public stage. But she was subjected to
Still,
that.
public, there's a public question on her gender, actually sex, yung biologic, up to the level of, anatomical sex niya. Yun yung naging question, which is unfair. Because to me, when we, dalawa, separate kasi yun eh.
Sige,
Anatomical sex is separate from your gender identity. Whether you were born like me, I was born male, but I'm transgender. So my gender identity is different from my anatomical sex. I am called rightfully as a woman, a female, but anatomically, obviously I'm not. Diba? I was born male. But for questions in spaces like sports na sobrang gendered, actually sa aming mga advocate.
Yes. Kasi okay, yung mga ganyan, di ba? Yung as to yung gender identity and then yung sex assigned at birth. Kasi madaming pinag-aawa. Doon na naman ako. Kasi abogado ako eh. Mahilig ako sa away.
There are different conflicting opinions about that.
Conflicting opinions, yes.
Diba?
Dahil levels of conservatism, yun eh.
Honestly, we cannot solve it in one solution for all the aspects that this issue is facing. But now we're in the issue of sport, diba? How do we resolve this or live with it na wala ngang na hindi naman kumikiling sa isa or kumikiling sa isang pananaw, but at least sport is supposed to be the most neutral way of settling any issue. Diba?
Actually,
yun ang disconnect ko sa issue na to eh.
To us, like how we studied it, sa side ng gender advocates, talagang last frontier ang sports in terms of gendered activities ng humankind.
Yun ang pinakamahirap ata siguro.
Kasi talagang from the very beginning, from the very start, delineated male-female. Now, the understanding of maleness and femaleness, gender and anatomical sex has already become more modern, accepted na separate ito. Kaya nga may SOG. Pero ang hindi magets ay yung activity, kailangan pa rin ba siyang super gendered? As in talagang hiwalay, no? So there's radical push na kung sana ang sports ay hindi na lang gendered. That's one like radical solution to it, no? Na why not just put them all together?
Do you agree with that?
There are ways to do it. There are ways to do it, and na unti-unti pa rin na-open ang utak ko dun sa ability ng tao na pwede nga naman. At kung paano siya magiging fair. Kasi yun yung question.
Fairness.
It's always, sports
fairness
is always a question of fairness.
It's not equity, it's not equality, but it's more of issue of fairness.
Fairness, yes.
And that is not gender-based.
Exactly. Marami siyang, like for example, advantages. Where does it go? Like, I mean, kung nasa for example, if there's an incredibly tall volleyball player, incredibly tall basketball player, we're seeing heights of up to 8 feet na sa basketball pa lang, di ba? Pero, nearing it, di ba? So, like, hanggang saan ang advantage? Is that still fairness?
Yeah, I mean, I'll ask a question I think many from our generation would ask. Like, you're saying some basketball players, male basketball players, are 7 feet tall. Said player transitions to being a woman, which is perfectly his right. No? If he wants to, then he becomes a she. And then said player joins a women's basketball league like the UAP. Paano mo i-weigh nga yung issue ng fairness? How do you explain to? Kasi of course there are two sides of the debate. No, some say na hindi pwedeng pasalihin yan dahil dapat sex at birth. Yung isa naman sabi, the moment he became a woman, and the rules of the UAP says that this sport is for women, the only qualification is yung age, etc., etc. So how do you reconcile that?
Now, to us, what makes most sense should be followed. Yun yung para sa amin. Pero yun para sa amin. Kasi right now, syempre hindi pa yung radical solution na bakit hindi na lang, pasalihin na lang lahat, di ba? At wala nang divisions. But still, we can't do that yet. So here's the thing, kung dun tayo pupunta sa fairness, kung biglang, there's a nearly 8-foot player, male transitions to female and then joins the women's sports, they will definitely, have an advantage. But yun na nga, anong klaseng, how do we limit advantage? Where have we always put limits on it, di ba? And celebrate. Marami siyang reasons bakit natin nafe-feel na parang kailangan may limit. Ang laking parte na dyan ay how we stick so much advantage sa side ng patriarchy, no? Bakit mga lalaki ang kino-consider na okay lang? Marami sa kababaihan, laging may limit, laging may hindi, laging may ganitong ano. So, like for example, if they look too much like a man, they're gonna be questioned as masculine. They might be too strong. Look so much a certain way, they could be this weak, di man lang sila makapasok, 'di ba? So, the point there is if it makes sense at papasok siya, then go ahead, 'di ba? Laban tayong lahat. Pero kung hindi nag-make sense, for example, there are certain sports organizations who already set their rules in terms of people who can join. And
Actually, yan yung magandang ano dyan eh. Kasi as long as the rules are clear from the get-go and the rules are perceived by everyone who will participate
as
fair,
then
they can do that. Ako, ang tingin ko naman dyan, ha? I mean, I like the way you said it na
what makes the most sense?
what makes the most sense. And even in the way we deal with everyday problems, even as in my profession, alam mo yung sinasabi, it's a case-to-case basis.
Yeah.
Diba? Yung parang, even though there is a law,
yes.
diba? Sometimes pag nakita mo yung sitwasyon, then you will actually have to adjust. Diba? So, hindi ako naniniwala doon na parang yung sasabihin mo, lahat na lang. Diba? Or, so tignan muna natin, kasi this is relatively new. This is a relatively new ano. So we do it in baby steps. Kasi ang nangyayari ngayon parang it's a hammer na.
It's a hammer.
Going
Correct.
back to yung what makes the most sense, I think one problem we have is that there are stereotypes already, like men are faster, stronger, etc.
Exactly.
But it could cut both ways. Radical, or at least give me a
kanya
scenario.
rhythmic gymnastics.
A woman, no, let's stick to basketball. A woman athlete transitions to male and wants to play in UAP basketball. If you're going to look at the percentage of women's basketball in the UAP and men's basketball, I think you will find that women are actually better at the free throw line. They shoot better from the 3-point line also. And this is the same, they don't adjust it for women. Same size of ball. So one could say that since women are better shooters, again, we're going to stereotypes. Maybe it might make sense to,
They'll make nice point.
yeah, but speaking to rules, the US presidency, Trump, they signed an EO banning transgender women from competing in women's sports categories. What do you in the community feel about this? How do you feel about this?
Dito sa atin.
Incredibly, sabi nga nila, if the US sneezes and the Philippines catches a cold. So,
the world actually.
Diba? Parang pag may ginawa sila doon, ang laki ng impact sa atin.
May kausap ako kanina. Tawag natin siya sa pangalang Direk Gigi. Sinabi niya sa akin kanina, na nag-uusap kami before the show, we were discussing about Filipinos. The Tagalog language is the most gender neutral.
Yes.
Then compared to the English language, yung wala tayong his or her sa kanya. Di ba? Napaisip tuloy ako, oo nga naman. And the way we Filipinos think, mas mas neutral. Even compared to yung sinasabi yung sa lamesa, may gender ang mga bagay sa European languages, sa Spanish.
Spanish, for example.
Spanish, but sa atin wala. Diba? So yung sinasabi mong, not necessarily, so what's the point? The point is not necessarily that there is a legislation in the US. Will we
translate
copy?
To anything?
But yes,
so,
ako tingin mo doon.
Ang tingin ko lang dyan is, it can, inspire copycats. Because there's, latent but nandyan yung conservative movement papunta dito sa Pilipinas. No? Nandito na yung the way they think, the MAGA, the ultra-conservative side of the United States. Unfortunately, they're also very well-funded. And they are pushing for, countries that follow, the Western movements na bigyan nila ng kaunting influensya, no? And dun kami natatakot. Kasi a person of as a stature of the United States na president, no, pag nagme-make siya ng ganitong statements, it emboldens these small but very noisy minority. So what we fear...
The smallest are usually the noisiest. Yun naman usually, di ba ang chihuahua usually yung pinakamaingay na aso.
They bark and it feels as if their point of view is the only thing that should be considered, which is we need, tama to your point, Filipino, neutral, Filipino, the core value is pamilya, pakikipagbayanihan, pakikipagkapwa, di ba? So, ibabalik natin yun doon to prevent these ultra-conservative notions. Kasi totoo naman, Trump hardly is a conservative. Ano lang siya, maingay and then taking advantage of anything, no? Na kaya niyang to ensure he has a base. So, ginamit niya yung talk about sobrang konti. There's only 1% na trans women pa nga lang yung kinakount ni Trump, ha? Kasi they don't even know
of
how
those
to...
athletes.
Correct. They don't even know how to handle trans men athletes. Only 1% ang trans individuals na in sports, active in sports. Sa NCAA, sa US, only 5 transgender individuals. So this decision only affects in the whole US.
Okay.
Talaga?
Ganun kaliit.
Dapat
So,
kasi we should have those numbers.
diba? Kasi, so imagine it only affects those people. But it became a national conversation. Why? Because they want
it's a wedge issue.
It's a wedge issue. It's something that, you know, challenges your morals na hanggang dito ba ako, ganyan-ganyan, kung conservative ako, etc. So that's what we don't want here. Kasi yun nga, it affects such a small population there. It affects the entire Western world and then eventually tayo dito sa Asia, no? But we counter it with Filipino values. Yun yung lagi kong sinasabi.
Ang enemy naman talaga lagi ng kapayapaan is not having the opposite view. It is having the extremist views. Yung mga extremist views are the ones that actually are for me, difficult. Kasi no matter what you say, if it's an extremist view, no matter which side, leaning towards the ultra-liberals, that's why the ultra. That's yun ang nakakatakot for me na way to look at it. Either you're ultra-liberal or ultra-conservative. Ultra, one side of the... And in this situation, parang you can't decide either here, sa ultra-conservative, or there, the ultra-liberal.
Useless maging extreme.
Kasi weird rin naman na, kasi ang pangit rin naman na parang lahat pwede. We are in a society na we have to abide by restrictions to be able to live with one another. But it doesn't mean rin naman na we have to be always, we gave that up. But yung in terms of respect, we never gave that up. Yeah. Diba? We never gave up our right to be respected.
Correct. Yeah. Ako, ang position ko lang dyan, even just acknowledgement of existence.
Yeah.
Even that is to be seen.
Yeah, well,
lagi ko
diba? We've been talking about the concerns and the problems. So, siguro let's talk about moving forward, solutions. So, how do you think sports organizations like the UAP, how can they create a more inclusive environment for athletes of all orientations and identities?
You're an athlete yourself.
I am an athlete myself. So I used to do endurance cycling. So,
yeah, I read about it. How do you pronounce it?
Randonneur.
Randonneur.
So I competed in 200 and 300 kilometer cycling races.
The most effort is 100.
So you must be very happy the Tour of Luzon is
now.
Oh
yes, I've been following it. The Baguio stage has just finished. So yes, and I hold the record. I'm the first trans woman to finish, trans Filipina to finish as a randonneur in the Philippines. So,
what a romantic name for an
it's
athlete. Yeah, randonneur. I'm a randonneur.
So,
baka magbisikleta na rin ako just to be called a randonneur.
You just need to finish 200 kilometers.
Shit. Okay. Sorry.
But anyway, and then cycling, and then moved on to running. So I'm now a 2 times marathoner. And
grabe ka, no?
Endurance talaga. I love endurance sports.
Yes,
and then training for Chicago this October, the Chicago Marathon. Given that, I'm very lucky, yun lang yung sasabihin ko, na yung spaces that I am in are more, understanding of trans identities joining the sport. Because for the most part, hindi kami sobrang individual sport eh. Para siyang, it's so big. Like for example, a marathon is a massive thing. There are like 10,000 people, 5,000 people joining that. They'd hardly think about, trans ka. Kasi sumali ka lang, hindi ka naman elite.
Wait until you win, though.
Exactly.
Wait until you win, though.
But then, I'm just happy to participate.
Yes.
I'm
take the small wins until
take
you
the
get
small
them.
wins, yes. It's more of like, for as long as I'm allowed, I
Sali
will
lang
keep
na sali.
on, we'll keep on gonna chip on that rock.
Having joined marathons myself, no. So when you join a marathon, you really put your sa classification, women,
female.
no problem. So far, the ones
So
you've
far.
joined have
No problems.
No.
A huge part of that is they acknowledge that I'm the advocate. Mahaba na yung experience ko sa advocacy world. And then I make sure that I talk to the organizers. We all know Coach Rio, right? So to his incredible credit, he's very, very open-minded and very, very accepting of different identities. So siya din, we've become partners, to be honest. Last year's first ever Pride Run in the Philippines that included a non-binary. Siya nag-organize nun. First ever in the Philippines. First time nagkaroon ng non-binary category.
Really?
That opens up.
That's a nice way no, na parang
that's real progress. I mean,
meron
until today I didn't know that there were.
Are you open to that?
Actually, hindi siya sariling category.
But
the non-binary is more of like, if you're not comfortable calling yourself just simply a man or a woman, then please go to the non-binary category and compete there. It is a test, no? For sinasabi ko nga kaninang, what if wala na lang gender division?
Actually, ngayon, di ba, pag meron kang mga pinifilapan online, gender, man, woman, prefer not to say.
There are other.
Yes, or other. Yes, I'm as a trans woman, I appreciate that kasi marami talagang hindi rin naman ganun, no? Hindi talaga nakakapagsabi kung male
very
or female.
personal kasi.
And it's very personal, yeah. But it needs to be captured data kasi, di ba? So that's a completely different, thing. But the progress that we're seeing is one of those. Yung pagiging open ng mga decision makers natin, no? So unang-una, organizers, yan.
Yes.
Kung sa UAAP, definitely sa issue ni Trish, yung athlete natin, I guess there should be respect in terms of how, an organization, kasi dun she belongs there, di ba? And she's subjected to attacks. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Di ba? To ensure that she is not...
Actually, okay, maganda yung binigay mo na dichotomy as to how to treat the issue. There is the issue of the gender issue, and then there's the issue of how she was treated.
Yes.
Di ba? So parang, no matter what this is, di ba? There is also this, na mali naman talaga. Doon, yun nakikita ko yun, na parang,
That's right.
kung ano man siya, kung ano man ang nangyari dyan, hindi naman pwede yung nangyaring the online bashing. Kasi, okay, sa mga nanonood ng mga na bata ngayon, this issue is not nagsimula kay Trisha Tubo. Nung unang panahon, nung panahon natin, sinabalta, which is our generations, ang problema, ang pagkakaiba lang nun is walang mga walang taong tulad ni Thighs na nag-advocate at walang social media. Hindi ganun ka-readily available ang how one should... Oo nga, di ba? So now that, di ba, inong panahon ni Nancy Navalta, wala namang mga taong tulad mo who stood up for
The
that.
most painful thing was she was really pushed out of the sport.
Yes,
when she was one of
yeah.
the brightest parts of sprinting in Asia, to be honest. So, do we want that to happen again? Diba?
Sayang sa Pilipinas yun.
Absolutely. She would have, gotten us the golds that we probably would have had a lot earlier.
That's a very that's a tragedy by itself. But kaya nga, given that experience, no. So, ikaw, if you have a message for young athletes who may be struggling with their identity in competitive sports, what would be your message for them?
Well, lean into your identity, no? The realness, the truthfulness of your identity is a strength. Hindi siya kabawasan sa'yo. So if there's something that I could really want to encourage them from feeling, lean into your identity. That's your strength.
Anyway, again, sorry,
Galing.
I wish we had more time to discuss because actually I have so many other questions. But you know,
So little time.
So
Yes,
little time.
they can look for me if anyone's
Yeah, saan,
watching.
saan?
I'm on Instagram.
Sabihin mo na kung ano.
correspond at Thighs EST. That's THYZEST. Follow me there. Ask me any questions. Send me a message. I answer dozens every day
I
about
can
gender.
imagine. No? I can
Yes.
imagine. Oh.
So again, no, maraming salamat Thais for joining us here today. Today's episode is both relevant and informative, and we hope our viewers learned a lot. No? Because you know, sports isn't just about fun and games. No, it's about real struggles that need to be addressed. No? And we hope we're able to at least shed some light on that
Yeah.
today.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Thais. And
thank you so much.
thank you very much, everyone. Magkita-kita tayo muli hanggang sa susunod na episode. Once again, this is TVUP and we bring you
Inside the Games.